Hi, welcome back to Azure Terraformer. Today I've got a special episode basically of my talk the other day with the HashiCorp User Group, or the HUG, here based in Columbus, Ohio. So I hope you like it, and let me know your thoughts and comments and the feedback. Make sure you like and subscribe, and yeah, really helps the channel. Thanks a lot. See you guys.
Okay, whatever. So this is me. I've lived in Columbus, Ohio for 20 years. I've never worked here. I know most of you, so I'm going to buzz through this, but this is some of the stuff that I do outside of school. I was just talking to my friend Chris, who we just met after many years. Yeah, 20 years. And found out that we were both big into vinyl and music and stuff like that, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, find me on the socials and LinkedIn, and check out my GitHub. But that's who I am. I do have a bit of an announcement, some news today. I started a YouTube channel. Shocker, right? I've got 22 subscribers, so you know, I'm gonna submit my resignation here pretty soon. I'm gonna retire and just get that passive income going. So this is my strategy, right? No, it's definitely a passion project, and it's just been a lot of fun. And I've got a lot of stuff in my head, and I just thought other people might be interested in hearing about it. So love to hear your feedback. Check it out. Let me know what you think. I suck at it, full disclosure. Trying to get better. So any feedback you have, any topics you want. So I'm trying not to be that guy from Ferris Bueller where I'm just very deadpan, just coding. But I don't have a lot of time to just do video editing, so a lot of it's just going to be live coding and stuff like that. And if I get enough followers, maybe I'll do actual live coding in the reels, but we'll see. But anyways, yeah, it focuses on Terraform and Azure, but of course I'll probably tackle a bunch of other things that interest me in tech, like Packer and Kubernetes and stuff like that. So check it out. Really appreciate it. So today we're talking Packer. And so if you get nothing out of this, I hope you take away four things. How Packer works, basics. Some of the CLI commands that you need to use Packer. How to use Packer with Azure, because that's kind of an important thing. And how to use Packer with multiple clouds. So I actually signed up for an AWS account today, or not today, just for this. I'm going to cancel it when I get home. And I've got a GCP account too. So we're going to look at how Packer can deploy to all three of those, and how it all works. So hopefully that's helpful, whatever cloud you're on. Hopefully you'll give Azure a shot. Anyways, I'm not a sales guy. I'm in engineering, so that's my sales pitch. Anyways, Packer architecture works a lot like Terraform, in that it uses a strategy pattern, and it has these implementations. They're not called providers, they're called plugins. But those plugins basically do this adapter logic to talk to whatever cloud or platform you want to deploy virtual machine images to. And that could be vSphere. It could be on-prem, right? It's not just clouds, but the clouds are really making it possible, and it's a lot easier on cloud. So that's kind of how it got so popular. It's got the most important thing if you're just starting Packer to be aware of. It has two languages, JSON and HCL. So if you go out and search the Googles or the Bings and the Chat GPTs, it might come back at you with some JSON, and you might be like, oh, let me just use that. We don't use JSON anymore. JSON's not cool. It's all HCL. So yes, Shelby. Yes, Terraform is. So they first started off as different tools, and Ray could probably comment on the history of the Hashimoto guys, and Hashimoto and Mitchell and Rick
and Armand.
Armand, yeah.
Armand. But yeah, so both of them. I mean, because all HCL is is simplified JSON. That's all it is.
Kind of, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So Packer and Terraform were just open source projects that Mitchell and Armand worked on and got brought into the HashiCorp. And so you can kind of understand as open source projects, you know, they're kind of off doing their own, solving their own problem, right? And so HashiCorp's been trying to converge Packer to be a little bit more like in lockstep and use HCL. I will tell you, HCL has a lot of advantages over the JSON, so I would use that. Just like Terraform, your project can span multiple files. Like previously with Packer JSON, everything's in one giant ass file. Pardon my French. It's like it's very difficult to manage. So stick to HCL. You can also, like, it makes the syntax a lot more digestible. You know, basically all the things why you should, like, it's not fun to use ARM or CloudFormation, like, and why Terraform is awesome. Those are the same reasons why they moved to HCL instead of JSON. So make sure you check the little box. When you look at an example, show me the HCL version, not the JSON version. CDK. That's that new thing that he talked about, right? Where they use a language, like the.
You can do that for.
I don't know.
You can do that for Terraform. You cannot do that for Packer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, but I will look up the roadmap.
No YAML.
No YAML.
No YAML. No YAML. Yeah. So anyways, let's double click on that, okay? Because that was like the 50,000 foot view. Let's zoom in. Let's lower our altitude a little bit here. The beauty of Packer and Terraform is that it's extremely simple, yet powerful. So there's really not a lot of concepts you have to understand in order to understand how Packer works. 3 things, really. You got input variables, which should be kind of a no-brainer. You got builders and provisioners. That's it, right? So a builder is basically that plugin that's going to allow you to build a virtual machine image on that target platform. So there's a builder for Azure, there's a builder for AWS, there's a builder for GCP, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All you have to do with those guys is provide some credentials so that you can auth to that platform. And it has each provider has different bells and whistles, so you can customize how you set up the environment that Packer provisions so that you can provision your virtual machine and then install stuff on it. The provisioners is all of your stuff. Now this is a little bit different from Terraform, because in Terraform we think, oh, Terraform provisions stuff. And all my stuff is what Terraform provisions. And in this case, the provisioners, it's not actually the stuff that goes out to the cloud, it's your stuff that goes on the VM. So when we talk about provisioning, we're not talking about provisioning stuff in the cloud, we're talking about provisioning stuff on the VM. So that means dropping files, dropping configs, you know, setting in values, you know, running bash scripts, installing packages, all those things that you need to do on your OS to make that machine do what you need it to do. Whether that's be a load balancer, be a Cassandra node, you know, run Minecraft Bedrock, whatever, right? Little foreshadowing there. So yeah, so that's how the architecture works. Any questions? Yeah. Oh, for Packer? Yeah. Packer, all of these things are in Packer. Yeah. So my next slide, I'm going to talk about how Packer works as a great member of a team with Terraform, but all these things are inside Packer. So Packer's just a CLI command line that basically provisions a temporary environment with a VM in it. And then it connects to that VM, and then it runs your code on that VM to configure that VM. That's all that Packer does. Yes. Yep. I don't think so. There,
you can drop it. You can like leverage inside of Packer. Say, hey, I want to do some Ansible to do some additional stuff. Yes, you can do that because that's sometimes you're going to have a challenge in terms of, hey, I need to build my image, and it's a more complex build, and the whole thing that we'd like to get away from is doing these kinds of things in production. So if you can do the Ansible, you can do your Chef, you can do those things while you're building the image, you can then test that image once it's locked down, and you can make sure it's bulletproof before you promote it to QA, prod, or the other environments. So yes, you can use other tools, and I can go with,
Let me caveat that though. There's no first-party provisioner for Ansible.
Correct.
For Packer. So what you can do what he just said, but what you do it is you use the file provisioner to drop your Ansible playbooks. I'm picking on Ansible, right? You run a bash command to install Ansible, install Python, install all the things, then you run Ansible. Yeah. So you absolutely can do that, but like you gotta run those commands, right? Yeah. Good question. Good question. Okay. So now Packer's just part of the solution, right? So Packer's all about baking machine images. Those machine images are then used or referenced by Terraform to spin up an environment, right? So that's the goal of Packer. So it's not like a Swiss Army knife like Ansible or Chef that just does everything, and it can provision stuff to Azure, it can run stuff on the machine, like it can do everything. Ansible, Chef or Puppet, they could probably, make you French fries. There's recipes for all kinds of crazy stuff, right? But the question is, it's not can the tool do it, but should it do it? And so Packer's like, this is my area, this is what I'm good at, and I'm not going outside of that. That's all I do. I make VM images. Boom. And Terraform, and we'll talk about this on the next slide a little bit. Terraform can do a bunch of OS config. Like you can put a bunch of scripts, and I've seen it. Trust me. You can put a bunch of crap in your user data, where you spin up an EC2 or you spin up an Azure VM, and you're just like, okay, run this 5,000 line script, and like cross your fingers and hope it works, right? But with Packer, basically it's like, let's run that in a like beforehand, capture the snapshot into an AMI or into a machine image, and then that way we don't have to like worry about that like failing due to some transient blip, and we'll just more consistently spin up our VMs, right? And so that takes me to kind of what I call like the 90-10 rule. This is my rule. This is a rule I live by, right? Which is 90% of the yuck I want to bake into my image. And then the 10%, which is like the last mile stuff, I'm just kind of swooping in and like ninjaing one little setting in place, right? But like all of the plumbing and legwork that you have to do, like go download this 500 megabit file, right? Go extract that tarball and like put it in this directory and like run the installer and all that crap that you have to do when you're setting up a machine to do whatever it needs to do. That takes time, right? And so you want to bake that yuck into the image such that, and then put placeholders there such that when Terraform grabs that AMI or that machine image, see, I'm giving you a lot of, I'm giving you guys a lot of love. No, I'm trying, I'm doing it selfishly to make myself look objective. So when Terraform goes to grab that machine image and spin up the VM, your like the last little script that you run is going to be five or six little things that are just like, okay, set my connection string. Okay, set my IP. Okay, set my DNS. Right? That's it. So that's kind of the goal with Packer and how you can use it with Terraform. Any questions about that?
Seems like a little bit. It's a good idea. It's also seems like a little bit of an art form. How much do you push up for you Packer, or how much do you do post VM build? That's a little bit of experience.
Yeah. That's a great point, and it's kind of like the question, and I have this conversation with some of my colleagues at work a lot, because a lot of guys like the Ansible, right? And with Ansible, it's like the strategy is a little bit different. Like, you're not baking it in the image. Like, why do I want to bake this in the image, Mark? Like, let me just spin up some vanilla VMs and let me just run Ansible on them and like get everything going, and that works. It does work, but that philosophy is a little bit more like the pets. You're in more the pets land, right? Whereas this is more like cattle country, right? Where, because, and also like a challenge with that, with the Ansible approach, is like the scale out approach, right? Okay, let's say I have a cluster that like level set runs with five nodes, right? I got 5 VMs, but I want to spike it to like 50, right? If I expand it to 50, I got to run all that stuff dynamically when those nodes get rolled out there. Now physics takes into effect. I got to go download this file. I got to go extract it. And you got to do all those things, and Ansible could do it, and it's extremely efficient, right, at doing it. And it's got nice little progress bars and things that do it. But it's like it's slower, right? So if you want a very efficient, way to scale out and scale in and scale out, Packer can compress that into that image, so you really only have very small amount of surface area that you got to change at runtime. And that's why I call the build is like the runtime stuff. These are things that you don't know about the environment until the environment's been provisioned. But compile time stuff is like, okay, we're running Cassandra. We need these libraries, right? We know that. That's not changing. Like, it's not like somebody's just going to be like, all of a sudden, like, oh, we need to change this version, right? Like when we're doing the deployment, right? So those are the things that I call compile time versus runtime. Any questions? Okay, cool. So some basic commands. There's really only 2 that I thought were noteworthy. And I don't even know how Packer and it got on here, because it's like the simplest one there is. But Packer build's pretty much it, And a nuance with Packer build, again, because of the JSON HCL thing, if you're doing JSON Packer, you have to tell it where the JSON file is. Whereas if you're doing HCL Packer, you tell it where the folder is. That's the biggest gotcha. So once you know that, you'll be fine. Because there's a lot of documentation in the man pages about the file. Ignore that if you're doing HCL, which you should all be doing HCL. Then the variable inputs are a lot like Terraform. You got var, you got var file, you got environment variables you can set. So it's very, very similar. Pick your poison, how you do that. And using HCL, the var files are exactly like the TFR files for Terraform. I'm not a huge fan of the .hcl extension. You'll have to tell Mitch and Armand about that. Yeah. I don't know. Like in Terraform, it's just .tfrs. So like I don't know why they added the .hcl. Like we don't know what pkr vars is. I think it picks up on the
pick it up automatically.
.hcl.
Otherwise, you have to be more explicit.
If you explicitly set it, you probably don't have. But if all my other files are packer.hcl.
What this reads like to me is Docker, right? Docker build, right? I don't have to specify it. It just knows that will be Docker file.
Yeah.
So that's what it really looks like. So that's where they just I guess.
I mean, just like Terraform, there's like an implicit file, terraform.tfr, but actually, I don't think that's not true. Like you have to explicitly pass it. There's no default. It just seems like excessive.
It is excessive. I agree.
I have OCD big time. Sorry. That's it. My OCD strikes again. That's all.
It's redundant. We know it's HCL.
Yeah, we know it's HCL. So. Probably. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, that my OCD. Like, moving on. Debug. Debug's kind of an interesting one because debug basically means all those provisioners, right? So I might have a provisioner that runs apt-get update. I might have a provisioner that downloads a tarball and whatever. Debug lets you once you enable this mode, it outputs like an SSH connection, like a PEM file and stuff like that, so that after every provisioner, it stops and it waits for you to hit enter on the keyboard.
Or you can SSH into that. Yes, you can SSH into the temp VM and check out, hey, is this working the way I expected it to work? Or when it's not working the way I expected it to work, why isn't it working, right? So it allows you to check the live image that's building your image.
Yep.
Super cool.
Almost identical to Docker layers, where you can go to the previous layer in exec image and what's going on in that particular layer. Just without stopping.
So and this is like, and going back to like, if you were doing something complicated, like going back to an Ansible example, like why would I want to use Ansible with Packer versus Ansible versus an image I deployed? I'd much rather do everything complicated, like the 90%, all that gorp, make it, like, if it's ugly and hard, do it in a way where you can check and then test before you put it in production, before you say, YOLO, you only live once, let's do it in production the first time. Well, it's way faster if you want to shoot the cattle than deploy a new one.
Yeah.
Like, because otherwise you have a pet that you're like, okay, well, now I've got to water my pet, give it light.
Stroke it. All right, Tommy Boy reference, sorry. We're trying to get safe for work here. Anyways, yes, so debug basically, and this is useful like when you're, because I'm going to build as an overword term, but when you're building the machine, right, constructing the machine, like, I don't know, unless you have Bash memorized, right, and I don't know who does that, like, you might have made a mistake, and so there might be a spot in your Packer build code that won't work, and so this allows you to basically systematically, step by step, get to that spot that it's going to break, and then just wait, connect to it, and then run the command yourself and see what it does.
Yeah.
Right? And then, like, in real time, fix that thing, like, by figuring out how to run the command the way it should be. And then you're like, once you figure it out, it's like, okay, copy, paste, right? And then you go fix it and you move on, right? So that's really what I use debug for. And then the last one, this one's good for, again, diagnostics, like, if you have transient errors, or like if something just all of a sudden stopped working and you need to interrogate environment, you don't have debug mode is so annoying if like you have a pipeline and it's working, because you have to, it's like you're Homer Simpson, man. It's like, God, yes, right? So this on a board, it's like, okay, I know 99% of the time everything works. So like, if it doesn't work, in the off chance it doesn't work, just like, rather than like deleting everything like you normally do, Packer, just leave it there so I can go inspect the body when it's over, right? So basically, if any of your provisioners fail, Packer will just stop. It'll leave the VM up there. It'll cost you money, but it'll give you a chance to go look at that thing without wasting time rerunning it, with debug mode on, and you can go kind of inspect the crime scene. That's it. So those are some of the nice commands that I would recommend using. Any questions about that?
When it's building, can you specify like a spot?
So that depends on the providers. So Azure has a similar thing, but they're not called spot instances, but I don't know, preemptive VMs or something. I don't know. They're not spot instances. But my point is, each plugin has a bunch of configuration bells and whistles that allow you to configure how you're going to provision Packer to that machine. So on AWS, there's probably a spot instance setting, right?
I was just saying, like, I would only want to build so that the Cbus VM maybe is the lowest secure.
Yeah. you'd have to look at the AWS builder to see what the options are available. I don't know if that option's available.
I'm just curious, like the use case on that, because like when you think about the building an image versus deploying an image, like you can build an image using a 2-core, 8 gigs of RAM, even though I want to deploy it as a 256 gigs of RAM and 32 core. So it depends on, just because you can specify the size of the machine that you want it to use as it's doing the building, but it's not necessarily how you want to deploy that AMI when you actually want to deploy to production. Now you can.
Okay, so
but
scenario on thing. So if I use a 2-core, 8 gig RAM, but let's say I'm building an AIML with like NumPy and Canvas and I can download 50 gigs. I'm just imagining like downloading this huge.
Yep.
And compiling something ridiculously big. If I'm just 8 gigs, right, for my builder image, it takes forever.
Yeah.
Right? To build like multi image that I can use on a 64 or whatever. Something bigger, right? So I would rather smartphone this stuff, use a bigger CPU and bigger RAM, build the AMI that's going to be used on a bigger CPU.
No,
And I'll give another scenario. That I like that scenario because I think for video game shops, that's what they do like all the time. Because the AAA games, like I don't know, 90 terabytes or some crap, like it's insane. Anyways, but the scenario, more enterprise scenario I was thinking of is, let's say you're in charge of all the golden images for an IT organization, and you got to run this every day for like hundreds. Yeah, I guess so. I like mashing Packer up against pipelines and like having the pipelines like run. So if you're doing like recurring things like patching or upgrades and things like that, you can set a pipeline and it just pops out a new golden image with all the updates on it, and people just start using that. And he was like Ray was talking about end of life things with Packer stuff, but I mean I think that would fit into that use case pretty well, where you kind of end of life your images once like they're outside of the update window that you want within your org. But anyways, back to this. So yeah, that was a good thought. Just look at the provider documentation for whatever platform you're targeting. So Packer on Azure. So just some anatomy. And I have the obligatory, like, this is what it's called on Azure, this is what it's called on AWS slide. We don't come up with 3-letter acronyms for everything on Azure. We just call them what they are. So our AMI is a VM image. Our EBS is a managed disk. And our EC2 is a VM. Weird, right? We're weird. Keeping it weird, man. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, no, we don't. It's called Azure AD B2C, which is not even an equally bad name, but like on the opposite spectrum. Anyways, so these are the basic things that Packer is going to touch on the cloud platform. And basically, it's going to spin up a VM. I think Ray talked about this. It's going to spin up a VM. It's going to attach a disk. It's going to run your provisioners. It's going to spit out a VM image. Now on Azure, this goes back to the configuration for the plugin. For Azure, you can use an Azure service called Shared Image Gallery, which is an Azure service that basically creates an RBAC layer around virtual machine images, so that you can say, okay, these people can have access to these images and these people can have access to those images. It has some basic end-of-life stuff. I think Ray's HashiCorp thing has more bells and whistles, but this is where I think Azure may have a slightly better offering than AWS. I don't know. It's kind of like a Docker repository, but for VM images. It has sizing recommendations, which would really only make sense in a portal setting, so I'm not going to advocate that because we all want to use Terraform to reference our images. It has a strong version history, so it has a nice topology. It's not all just done through tagging and AMI names. And then it also has regional replication control. Now, maybe AWS has that now, but I remember back in the day, like we used to like have this cron job that would just like copy images, like AMIs from one region to another, and it just seemed very hacktastic. So this is built into Azure. And if you're going to be building Packer images on Azure, I would highly recommend targeting this because it makes your Packer images a lot more manageable once they're out there. So that's it. So that's the end of my slides. Love the questions. You guys want to build some images? Let's try it.
Like with Docker.
What's up?
With Docker, you can set your Docker file and upstream it. And say, hey, build from this.
Yes.
Build from 10.7.
Yes. Yes.
And then you go do your thing. We end up with a resultant image.
Yes.
And then that image can be used in another Docker file as pulling that into your Docker.
Yes.
You can build certain layers of this stuff. Is such a thing possible with Packer?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so in Azure, that and I'll correlate it to AWS as well, because I know we got some, bookstore fans in the audience,
That would seem like that would save you in this instance where you're building this massive thing. If you build this massive thing once,
yes.
and you put it someplace, like this image gallery or whatever,
Yes.
then all your subsequent setups can pull from that.
Exactly.
You don't all have to rebuild this big thing.
Exactly.
And then, shoot it hard as one. This big one is only built at night or whatever, once a day, or whatever. Is that possible?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And with the AWS provider, it's the AWS EBS provider. Like you just specify your AMI ID, right? And they do have like a filtering mechanism so you can search like for a specific AMI that's out there. So if you're looking for like Ubuntu, Xenial or whatever, it's like, okay, grab me the latest of that and use a marketplace image. I don't know what Amazon calls it, but it's kind of the same thing. It's like Amazon's own library of stuff, right? You can just pull one of those and it's like a vanilla image of RHEL or Ubuntu or whatever. Or you can pull your own AMI ID and like build off of that thing. And it's just like you said, it's like with Docker, like you got a base layer and then like when Packer spins up a VM, it's going to spin up that VM and then it's going to run a few more things on top of that and then it's going to take an image and pop out a new AMI or managed image. Yeah, and in Azure, like the way you do that is you just using the shared image gallery, you'd reference your image definition and your the version that you want or just latest, and it doesn't matter what region it's in. The shared image gallery will pull it from that, right? So that's one of the advantages. Like with Amazon, like the AMI ID is unique to the region, so that's why you have to do these machinations of like trying to like triangulate using the AMI lookup mechanisms and stuff. So
There
just
are
slight
a couple
differences.
things you can do with Amazon specifically, and I apologize, I know more about the, yes, I know. Like one of the things that you can do with Packer is you can have it not create the AMI image when you're doing your development work, because that like is one of the longest parts of creating the Packer image is creating the AMI, right? So as you're going through the development process, you don't even have to create the AMI. And then once you're finally done with it, you can say, all right, create the AMI and create it and copy it to 7 regions or whatever regions I wanted to. And then to answer the Jeff's question earlier, yes, you can specify spot instances, so you can do exactly what you were requesting.
Yep. So what are we looking at? Like this is it's like, are you okay, we're back. Okay, so where's my other code file? This one. See, I'm trying to go full screen to make it bigger. I suppose you guys can see this anyway. So this is my Packer project that I made for this presentation. It's a Git repo on my GitHub. I've got a folder for my Terraform because, I mean, if you're building a Packer image that you're going to use on your project, like, you can create your own Packer, reference one of the enterprise guys, like base images, and just install your app on top of it and provision it. Like, that's something that people do. But I would imagine some people, like, if you're in the enterprise role, like, you probably just have a bunch of source code that's just got Packer images after Packer images after Packer images. But in this case, I've got some Terraform code, and here I'm just provisioning a resource group and a shared image gallery, and then I'm provisioning a shared image definition. So this thing is going to give a unique name that my Packer configuration is going to reference, and it's going to drop that image as a new version out in this image definition out in Azure. So this is all in Azure. So now, looking at Packer, how this correlates, like if I go look at my build, let me go look at my sources. So these are my builders. So here's my Amazon builder. So I'm actually using, this is one of the cool things about HCL, because in the JSON syntax, this was just a mess. But this is like a data source reference from Terraform. Like, if you know Terraform, you're like, oh yeah, this makes sense. I understand what it's doing. We're doing an AMI lookup, and we're just looking up an Ubuntu image and blah, blah, blah in a specific region, right? And then we're gonna use this reference in the actual Packer builder to say, hey, use this as my source AMI, use T2 small, and just some obligatory config. I'm not draining, the deep end of the pool on any of these plugins, so by all means, go check out the plugin documentation. If you want to use private VNets and all that stuff, like, go have a good time. But this is the basic structure of how you're communicating with Azure. And what I'm also doing in my little shell script here that you can't see is I've got my AWS secret key and my AWS access key that are passed in as environment variables, so that when I run my command debug.sh, it's going to, I think I'm in the right folder. And we must have network connectivity issues. Oh, you know what? I think I need to increment the version number. It does a check if the image name is not unique. It gets really mad. There we go. Lots of colors. So when you're doing a multi-targeted build with Packer, each provider has a different color. So you can it runs them in parallel. So you can see, what is this? Azure's green, Amazon's blue, and then Google's purple. And so as it's running all of its commands to go provision the environment and run your stuff, you'll see what's happening on each of these platforms in that respective color. And so I've defined one for AWS here, one for Azure here, and you'll see it uses different configuration because each platform's different. Here's how I set up the shared image gallery destination for my image in Azure. So it's like, hey, go put it here. And I'm configuring my replication regions, so I could tell it, like, replicate this to a whole bunch of different places. Okay. And then for Google's a little bit different. Google uses these JSON files that have like your secrets in them. So instead of like an environment variable, like you put the path to this JSON file, and then Google's happy. That's pretty much how Google works. But yeah, so basically, Packer is all about anything that's specific to the cloud provider is isolated within this source or this builder, and that means anything in your provisioners is completely unique, agnostic is the right term, agnostic to the cloud provider. Now, there are cases where you may have to do certain things that only work on a particular cloud. Like there may be cleanup stuff to do sysprep on Amazon or Azure that you need to do. And you can't, there is in the provisioner, there's an only attribute where you can say, I only want this to run when I'm on Azure. Or I only want this to run on Google or Amazon or whatever, or both, right? And so this allows you to do targeted provisioners to accommodate for like the edge space, you know, where the cloud platforms need you to do something a little bit different, right? So you see here, we got the WA agent, that stands for Windows Azure. Way, way, way back in the time machine, right? The WA agent it's like the agent that runs on Azure Linux. It's still named WA agent because of Windows Azure. We're not called Windows Azure anymore, but yeah. But that's what it is, and it's only for Azure. So there may be things in Amazon. But you can see here, like, this is the most simple image you can ever imagine. I'm literally just running app update, okay? Yawn, right? Yeah, go ahead.
Does it run everything as sudo?
So it runs at, I'm glad the asset. There is a setting called execute command where you can pass in the context that you want it to run under. So I declare that as a convention, my own personal convention. I want to reuse that same like execution context over and over again. I declare that as a local. So this is my command, that the context that I'm running under, which is basically going to execute everything in sudo. Yeah. So I don't have to keep putting in sudo. Yeah. Good question.
You go one step further with that, then that, it's like a library. So you don't have to put that file in every password directly. You can actually import some library that does this way.
Unfortunately, I don't think so. Yeah, no, I don't think so. I have not seen, I don't think modules exist like they do in Terraform. So yeah, no. But good idea. You should write a memo to Armin. Have him get on that.
No, not Armin, that'd be Mitchell.
Oh, Mitchell, sorry.
Armin's an executive.
They're like,
Mitchell's an individual.
they're like the same person to me, so like it doesn't matter. Yeah.
So Sam, I didn't catch the question. What was the question?
No. It showed the local package how you did it sudo.
Yeah.
And it's just a one line right there in the local package. He has to use that every after directory that he wants to build. The question was, that is that's like a library or module that you could put in the source and pull this, and then you do that sudo everywhere. It's just where the execute command is where
So I make it it's basically, for me, I treat it as a string constant. I declare it one time, and then I reference that string constant on every single one of my things. But I agree with you. It's kind of like annoying. Like, why do I have to do that? When you look at my Minecraft build, I've got a whole bunch of provisioners. It's way more cool than this. The what? Yeah. So I just declared a local variable called execute command. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a convention I use. I just dump it into this locals file. Yeah. It is. Yeah, I mean, you could drop that file, like, but you would on your pipeline or whatever, you'd have to copy that file and drop it somewhere. You could do that. Yeah, kind of makes me feel dirty thinking about that, but you could do that. Anyways, so let's go look at Bedrock. Okay, so here's a little bit more sophisticated one. I wanted to show you guys multi-targeting so you could see the things running on Google and all that. But this is a little bit more complicated one. So I've got my I'm only building it on Azure. Okay, shocker. And so nothing's really changed there. But my provisioner is very different, right? So there's a lot more stuff going on in here. So I got a provisioner where I do app update, and I do some app update installs. I'm installing curl, wget, unzip, grep, screen, OpenSSL. And so here I'm at all this is inline bash. What's that?
Why should you curl wget, OpenSSL? Like, why don't you do all?
I could. I find this more readable. And so, like, if I want to, there's no technical reason, and in fact, like, I find myself often like finding an apt-get installer that has a whole bunch of them strung together, and I break it apart into individual commands, just because it's like, you wouldn't believe this, but like, all of these work except for unzip. Unzip for some reason gets pissed off, and it's like cannot find the package. And I'm like, unzip, the most unsexy package, you can't find it. And I'm like, I don't understand. So I find like because Packer each provisioner is an individual step, it does also, besides being more readable for me, like I don't have to like try and parse some blah, 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 you know, of like a random string of like packages. I can just be like, oh, like it's trying to install unzip and it's failing miserably, right? I don't know. That's me. Yeah.
If you did have them all in one string, that it'll debug code, would it have registered them as like one thing? Like,
Yeah.
So building out like that will show you like which one failed.
Yes.
specifically to.
Yes. So this is like, again, different strokes for different folks. Like, you can take all of this bash, drop it into a shell file, and like have one provisioner that does all of this shit, right? Sorry, that does all of this stuff, right? If that's the way you want to jam, go do that. Like, but for like my opinion is like I find this a little bit more readable. And if I'm doing another project and I need like a little packet here, it's like here, what is this, libSSL 1.1? It's like, I don't know, maybe some other project I'm working on needs this little thing. I don't have to go spelunking through 1,000 lines of bash to be like, oh yeah, this is the part that I need. You know, I don't know if anybody feels me there, but like bash coders, they're just like, you know, there's like no sense. It's like, oh, I feel like line 37 is a good line to put this on. It's like, whatever.
So when I was ramping and teaching myself Packer, I did what he said, put everything in one giant bash script. It was hell. My life was hell as I was trying to debug this damn thing because I didn't know what I was doing at the time.
Yeah.
This is going to be way easier when you're debugging it, when something doesn't go right, to get to the exact command that throws up, because otherwise it's going to throw up and you're like,
yeah. And you, yeah.
Just for example, in the provisioner, you use a variable, so you could say like packages equal quotes OpenSSL
Hell yeah.
ABC.
Hell yeah.
And then inline say dash dollar that bar.
yes.
Okay. So you could, well,
I know this isn't how it works, but I'm just saying, string interpolation is a thing. So in Packer HCL, you can absolutely do that. Go nuts, you know. But I would just say balance that with readability and like configure, you know, like, you know, you can do that. But I would just say like be careful, you know.
all your inlines like this have a package variable with all of them, and then make your shell call once. And that stays the same, but I have this variable that I can change for any of my scripts.
I like that idea. That's a good idea. So yeah, so basically the apt install, you could just put that in like a variable input and be like, all right, apt install, jam on this.
Exactly. Yeah. You could make that in your local column, whatever.
Yeah.
Local app package install.
Yeah.
And just use that right here in your shop command, and you know that's what it's going to do, whatever ones you list. You use that over and over and over again.
Or make it a variable. So like if you want to take the same template and reuse it for something else, it's like, all right, I know I got to do me some apt-get. Like, let's get this over with. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to steal that. I'm going to steal that. I like that. Okay, so you'll notice I do kind of group them together. So I'm trying to apply like OOP. I'm an old .NET Java guy, okay? So I'm like, okay, if these things are related, I want to kind of put them all together, you know, so they're in like a little function. So if they're related and they're like one little atomic unit, I jam them together. If they're unrelated, I want them separate so I can see when they break, right? So that's what I'm doing. So you can see with Minecraft here, I'm doing a lot of dependencies up front, apt-get update. I'm adding a user for my Minecraft server. Huh? MC server? What the heck's that? Oh, mixed server. Oh, yeah. McDonald's. Oh, I'm like, what? We know where Jeff's going later. Okay. And then here I got some nasty where basically this thing is downloading, like it's going out, grabbing, and I stole this from somebody on the internet, right? So when you're building Packer, you're probably going to do the same thing. Somebody at your company has probably written a run book where they say, step 1, execute this command. Step 2, execute this command. Step 3, execute this command, right? So you're going to do exactly what I did, except you're going to use a wiki or wherever that person, Word document, wherever they wrote it down, and you're going to go be like, okay, take this, put it here, okay, okay. And like, that's literally what I did. I just looked at an online tutorial about how to install Minecraft, which is his run book for how to set up Minecraft, and I put it into provisioners into Packer, right? And so this is the part where it's pretty cool. Like he goes and downloads the current version of Minecraft, constructs a download URL, grabs the latest version, unzips it, goddamn unzip. He even cleans up the zip file after it's over, and then we have to set ownership of all the stuff that we just unzipped. Makes sense, compartmentalized. He even has like a little script file here so here I have a local file in my Packer solution. This is a script file I stole from this guy, okay? This file, oh my God. What happened? Okay. Yeah, that cord is real bad. So instead of inline, well, I'm not actually executing the script. I just need to get this file off of my computer that's running Packer and onto that remote machine. This is a script that is related to the operation of Minecraft. So I honestly don't know what this does. I don't know. I stole it off the internet. I was using. Oh, okay. So I'm using the screen command here to. This is my Minecraft server that I spun up. I don't know, but that's what it's used for. This guy, I don't know what he's doing here. Okay. Anyways. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. It's this is a file that guy uses to start the Minecraft server, and this is a file that he uses to stop it. And in the provisioner, I'm using a different provisioner called file. So instead of the shell provisioner, which is running bash, the file provisioner is basically like, okay, take a local file and like copy it to the remote server. So it's kind of an important thing, especially if you don't want to like upload a file, I mean, I guess you could run this all through Bash. Like you could say, hey, copy this file, upload it here, and then have something else download it from somewhere else. So file just kind of makes that easier. I will say, if it's a really big file, like you shouldn't use this. It's not a good thing, right? Because you're constrained by your own internet. So you may want to stage the file. Jeff's gone on S3 or Azure Blob Storage or someplace like that. If it's a big ass file, like we're talking gigabytes, and you have to download that thing and install with it. I've seen that with like third-party software packages. That can be something that happens. So, but small file. Think small files, okay? And then I'm just setting up this is my system service, and I'm copying it to the file, and then I run my stuff, right? And that's it. And so this will set up a Minecraft server. And I'm working on a different version of this where I'm going to be staging. So the Minecraft Packer template that I showed you stores all of the Minecraft worlds locally. So if I delete my server, or if I delete my disk, my worlds go poof. So I'm working on a new version that's going to build off of the old image, and I'm going to add Azure Blob Storage as the backing store for the worlds, so that if my VM goes down, my worlds are safe on my little Blob Storage account or S3 bucket, and I can spin up a new VM, point it at that place, and like my Minecraft server's back, right? So that's the next version. But again,
I'm going to make it stateless. You're going to make it truly cat.
Truly, yes. And so, it's coming, man. It's coming.
No, that's a perfect example of the pets versus cat architecture, right?
Yeah.
Where you have this is why we want to get this stateless, so we can shoot it and spin up a new one when it starts misbehaving.
Yep. I'm actually kind of wondering what would I'm gonna just for kicks, I'm gonna spin up a Minecraft server in US East and a Minecraft server in US West, point them at the same Blob Storage account, and see if I can do like high availability Minecraft. I don't know what would happen, but I don't know. There's probably some bad things will happen, but we'll see. Like users just like randomly show up in different places. Yeah. Let me see if there's. It does. It does. And I think when it runs in parallel, it'll fail for that provider.
Yes, the other provider will continue to run.
Yeah.
But it can put you into a weird. You can get into a weird position where you're like, then you have to put a new fingerprint, so it'll create a new image.
And that's where this on air flag comes in, where you can control Packer's behavior when that happens. So normal by default, if you don't set on air, the default is destroy, where it's just gonna delete everything, which is kind of good from a. Oh yeah, it won't create an image. Now there is a flag where you can say force, and even if something fails, it'll force create the image. I'm pretty sure, but I don't use that. I don't know what scenario would be for that, but yeah. So that's the Minecraft. I showed you like a multi-targeted one. I showed you Minecraft. Let me show you what this looks like out in the portal. Oh my God. My chat GPT. Okay, so here's Google. Okay, I don't know how many of you guys use the Google Cloud. Let me go to my filter. Oh, Jeff's getting excited.
I need to get a Google rep here. So
type custom. There we go. So this is actually the image that we just built when you saw me like run Packer build my debug.sh, which just runs Packer init, Packer build, and we remember I incremented the version to 1.04. This is the image 1.04, right? So it's right there. So it's real. It finished successfully. Now, if we go and we look at my AWS, let's see how AWS fared here. AWS is such a nasty portal. Such a nasty console. There it is, 1.04. What is this, like Battleship Gray? Like, gosh, jeez. So there's my AMI, whatever. Now out here on Azure, where's my guy? So here's my shared image gallery. We love renaming things. So a shared image gallery is, I guess, an Azure Compute Gallery now. And so this is what I'm saying. The taxonomy is a little different. The taxonomy on AWS is very flat. You have an AMI, you've got an AMI name, which you can do all sorts of crazy naming conventions, and you got tags. That's it. On Azure, I've got a taxonomy. I've got my image definition here, and then within here, I have versions, right? And so these versions, like, I can control the end of life, and I can change the replication for a specific version. So if it's like, okay, I want to go wide with this version, let's go wide, and we can deploy it to other regions. And this is not really managed by Terraform. I wouldn't recommend using Terraform to manage this. Let Packer build your images, and then if you want to add another region, just go find the version and drop it in more regions.
So a plug now for HCP Packer. We have a Packer version, and this is not Packer in the cloud, but it is we will manage the registry of your images. So once you create an image, it will make an entry in HCP Packer. So now it's like, all right, I have my parent version. So now you can start referencing that cloud version. Hey, you can go to Terraform. Terraform, reach out to HCP Packer and tell me tell me the latest AMI for this image. And it's like, oh, here's the image for AWS, here's the image for GCP, here's the image for Azure, and you can start creating a registry of parent and child images, and then revoke them. So if you create, hey, so I work for Acme Corporation, and I take Ubuntu, and I say, here's my vanilla image for Acme. Then a line of business can say, all right, now we're going to create, here's our line of business image based off the Acme Golden image. And you can create a daisy chain of images that are all related, and then if for some reason there's a security bug, like a day zero, you can revoke, and it's going to revoke the parent and all the children, so you could never even try to deploy it using Terraform, because Terraform's like, sorry, I can't deploy that image, it's been revoked. And that's free. You can manage 10 images in HTTP Packer, in the free version.
Cool. Yeah. Did not know about that. But
you should check it out. You'll like it.
I will. Yeah. So that's it. That's the end.
Mark, I love this because I'm like literally. I think I'm going to be using some of this for like demos that I do. It's always a challenge to find something that I can stand up and have a reasonable demo for a customer that's not garbage. Standing up.
Setting the bar high, man. Not garbage.
No.
You heard it here. Woo! Not garbage.
Sorry, my stuff is normally garbage. Standing up a Minecraft server is like most people are like, all right, I got kids. I've got everyone's heard of Minecraft. And standing up a Minecraft server is like, that's a great use case for this. I'm gonna go get my a little bit, get my redstone, get my fire sword.
Punch some trees. I did promise punching some trees tonight, so if you don't know Minecraft, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But when you start a game in Minecraft, like, you have no tools, and the only resource, the most basic resource, is wood. And so literally the only action you can do is punch. So you walk up to a tree and you start punching the tree, and it'll
spit out wood.
It'll spit out wood. So it's what? Yeah, like in real life. Yeah.
I punch trees all the time.
We'll try that. Well, after the bar tonight, let's go try it and do some.
My question would be, why do this?
Oh. Don't get me wrong. I like Ansible, and we use Ansible at work. Yeah, but it's not
an
this.
Ansible provider that you can use in your workflows. And again, I've used it many times because a lot of times, like, this is easier to do in Ansible. There are aspects that are easier to do in Ansible.
As an operator.
Yes,
I agree.
As an operator. But yes, but I want to do it in an image and then deploy the image because I don't want to do it like if I'm like I want to create an image that I can say yes, this is bulletproof. I can send it through all the testing, and now I can deploy it. And then it's like, all right, when the next image comes up, it's like I'm going to deploy the new image.
All right, there's a YouTube video. Why use Packer? How would you do it?
Oh, that's an idea for me to make a video on. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's
It's like, oh, I'm a YouTuber. That's right.
Me? I would watch that. And you made it very good.
and I think there's a place for both, you know. But it's definitely like a pets and cattle kind of thing.
And like, they're like, oh, I want to make one little change. I guess I got to go back and build and everything and run the whole thing through Google. So make this food on.
So I had to run Ansible on Wednesday. I don't see all these thousands of devices.
Yeah.
It was horrible. I hated it. It was the worst thing ever.
As you can say, in an environment that's all tearing down and rebuilding, you're building a base image. You're going to get that for free. You're going to get the new patent. This is, no. Just keep all those panels going, keep all those heads going. Everything's one little tweak and all down to the
I like saying Zoom is my word. Zoom is more aggro pro because each little server is its own little ecosystem. Here's the giraffes over here. Here's the monkey. You gotta do this for the monkey. You can't do that to the giraffes.
Hey, let's keep it safe for work here, okay? No, I think with like your point with making small changes, Ansible's king, right? Because I'm full disclosure, building a Packer image. Go make sure you have a good your coffee maker's working, okay? Because when you run it, or you got something else to do on another screen, because like when a Packer image is running, or have a pipeline agent, you know, but like it's gonna cook, and that's why I call it baking, right? Baking takes a while, right? So, you know.
So we had a certificate that is expired. I created a new certificate, installed a new certificate. I used it every day, no big deal. The old cert, well, the system is pointing to the new cert, which is great. The old cert, you can no longer use, it expires. But it's still may not So, no big deal. It's just a little bit of an old file sitting around in Etsy. It's not the end of the world. Your theory is, well, you got to rebuild all your machines, clear out Etsy, and then bring them all back up. Versus, I'm just going to run an Ansible script. It'll be on the file. I'm just putting RN exactly.
Yeah.
And now it's a nice, tight system.
Yeah.
Like, that's working versus rebuild everything.
Yeah.
And then do a rolling up and make sure that it's trying to get rid of this.
Yeah.
So rough.
Yeah.
So that's where Ansible does have.
Absolutely. And I would say, again, I think I had a slide on here, like Packer's part of the solution, use Ansible. You can use Packer as like your day one, right? Ansible's day two. Absolutely. Like, this is not golden hammered, you know, Packer solves all problems. Packer is not day two operations by any means, you know? Thanks. It's a good one, yeah. I'm gonna
even use this video and put you on the main path.
Yeah. I did record this, so we'll see how it turns out. I might have to stitch this. I'm gonna go grab a drink or a libation. Is that cool? Is that cool?
Oh my God! Grab as many libations as you like.
Because it seems like the questions are dying down. But I mean, I'll be hanging out.
Well, that's it. I hope you liked it. It was a great time. There's a lot of great questions and engagement. It's a relatively small group, but it's a really active one and a lot of fun. Great group of people. So maybe I'll be back there again. I definitely try and make it out every monthly meetup. And thanks again to my friend Ray for hosting. He always does a great job and always has some good feedback in the sessions as well. So anyways, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell, let you know when my next video drops. And that's it from Azure Terraformer. Until next time, see you.